Ready to go? Good morning, Jamaica, and good morning to everyone who is watching this press briefing from around the world. It is Thursday, October 30, 2 days after the passage of Hurricane Melissa. And we all know it's been devastating seeing the scenes in Western Jamaica. There are entire communities that seem to be marooned and also areas that have been flattened. I think the entire Jamaica is really broken because of what has happened. But we remain resilient. We are working to get to those who need as much assistance as possible. And I will give you some updates right at the beginning. I know some of you go off at 10:30 for other programming that's not as important. So I'm going to try to get through those updates very quickly. But I have to acknowledge persons in the room. Where this morning you're going to have the Honorable Favour Williams, our Minister of Finance and the Public Service. You will also have the Honorable Desmond McKenzie, our Minister of Local Government and Community Development, the Honorable Daryl, our Minister of Energy, Telecoms and Transport, the man working to get the lights back on and holding our energy partners very much responsible and holding their feet to the fire. The Honorable Matthew Samuda, Minister of Water, Environment and Climate Change, who will update you on the water situation. The Honorable Nestor Morgan, our Minister with responsibility for works, updating on roads. We'll also have the Honorable Andrew Wheatley, our Minister with responsibility for science, technology, and special projects. And he's going to be bringing us some updates on some issues we're having in the online space. We have several permanent secretaries here. We acknowledge them. I know we don't have much time today to go through everyone, members of the media. We also have with us some special persons. We cannot do this recovery without partnership and without international support. And we have some persons here with us who are indeed Jamaica's brothers and sisters, and those are representatives from the government of the Cayman Islands, and I have to acknowledge them. We have the Honorable Andre Ebanks, and I'd love you to stand so they can see you, the Premier and Minister for Financial Services and Commerce from the Cayman Islands, and he has a team with him. They came in this morning. They flew in one of the first flights to come to Jamaica with supplies to assist the Jamaican people. They had generators, medical items, meals, and they're going to be doing more. They've said they're going to do much more, and we're so happy to have you here this morning, and we thank you for your partnership in this very difficult time for us. We also have several ministers here with us. We have the Honorable Nicholas Da Costa. We also have the Honorable J. Ebanks. We also have, the entire Cayman team seems to be here. We have the Leader of the Opposition, Mr. Joey Hugh, is here with us. And we have the Honorable Consul, Dr. Joseph Mazuka. He's here too. He's organized all of this. And we also have Sam Rose, the Cabinet Secretary in the Cayman Islands. And so we thank you all for being here. And again, I say good morning to everyone. I'm going to give you some initial highlights in terms of updates, but the ministers are here and they'll give more specific updates. These are very important updates, and I ask you to listen to the official sources of information. There's a lot of info online. Some of it is true, some of it is not. So please pay attention to official information. And so yesterday, several ministers were out doing damage assessments. I know all the members of parliaments were also. In addition to that, our Prime Minister, he did aerial tours and ground tours yesterday in parts of Western Jamaica. The Prime Minister today will attempt to do Trelawney, Westmoreland, and Hanover. So yesterday we were able to do some of St. Elizabeth, we were able to do some of St. James, didn't get to do everything that we would have wanted to do because sometimes the helicopter could not land because of the devastation. And so today, based on the weather, and as you know, we can't send the helicopters up if the weather is not good. And so we have to always bear in mind safety. So we'll continue some of that work today. And the Prime Minister, as I said, will attempt today to go to Trelawney, Westmoreland, and Hanover because we have to see the damage that has been done there. There's also we've had many requests from members of the media to also go up in helicopters to survey the damage. But we cannot do that right now. Right now, all the helicopters are focused on relief-related efforts. And so we cannot at this time do that. But we're hoping that by in the weekend, we'll be able to accommodate media. And so we'll be able to have some limited tours, if you want to call them that, or missions where we take members of the media to see the damage by air. I'm going to go now into some updates from the Jamaica, the JCF and the JDF, but primarily the JDF. The JDF, or military, is doing quite a lot of work, and I just need to note they have activated a humanitarian and disaster task force, and they have several disaster assistance teams that are working, 3 different teams. Yesterday, they started the work to get to Westmoreland. They are cutting their way on foot through blocked roads, by foot. This is not easy work. So they were able to get to Black River through a lot of very difficult work and difficult conditions. They were also able to do Luana, Middle Quarters, and New Holland. They got to Holland Bamboo yesterday, and they encountered lots of problems there. As you know, these beautiful bamboo plants, they're entwined, and they've had to be cutting through, and they've had to pull them out, use equipment. Sometimes it's machetes that they're using to get through them, and there are hundreds of bamboo plants that they're trying to get through. They did not finish it last night. They are back at it this morning to try to clear the road. Now, let me be clear. That is not full opening of the roadway. What we're trying to do is to get a corridor that relief vehicles, emergency vehicles can go through. So we're trying to get 1 lane cleared. Now, we are hoping that will be done by this morning. The JDF team started again, and they are working very hard to do that. And we'll get more information to you as the road is cleared. They are working to get additional equipment, and of course they need petrol to operate these equipment and fuel. And so they're coordinating that so that as they get in, they can also go into other remote areas. So they're trying to clear the main roads, and then they will look at the other roads. They're also, the JDF, or Jamaica Defense Force, is also doing air response. They have been taking patients from Black River. So they've been doing casualty evacuations from the Black River Hospital. A lot of people are worried about that hospital, so they have been doing that. They've also started this morning to move some of the pre-positioned food from Up Park Camp, which is our military base, and they have started that. Just also to note that the JDF would like us to know that they're going to be doing patrols in the affected area. These are disaster areas. And so we need to note to everyone, even though we're clearing roads, especially in the most affected areas, stay off the road. We need the emergency vehicles to pass. We're opening it for the ambulances. They're also coordinating their ambulances behind that team that is going by foot, opening the roadway. There are ambulances behind them trying to get to the affected. I also have to note also that we are, and I don't see it here, so I'm going to have to find that one. I know one of the questions had to do with casualties, and I have an update from the JDF in relation to that, and I should give that to you. They have dedicated a helicopter to locate and coordinate the collection of any bodies that may be there. We get a lot of reports about potential bodies. We're not sure. They have to verify this, and so we have a helicopter that's been dedicated that is going to be doing that really, really very difficult work. Obviously, we continue to pray that we will not have to recover many bodies, but just know that the JDF is doing everything they can to get there and to do what is necessary. And so we will give you more updates on that as we go along. I also have some other updates for you in terms of flights. You would have heard that the airport opened, and Minister Vaz will speak a little bit more on that, and that's why the Cayman team was able to be here. But in terms of Kingston Harbor, there are many entities that want to ship goods to Jamaica, and so the process of reopening the harbor started yesterday, and so the harbor is open. So let's talk about KFTL. Most of their berthing systems are intact and sound. There have been minimal damage to cargo, and so we expect that this morning it did happen. The harbor master declared the harbor open, and vessels can now come in. So KFTL and KWL will commence unloading of vessels and delivery of cargo. They started that at 7 a.m. this morning, and so the ports are opening. We also should note the waiving of storage fees until November 2. The Port Authority of Jamaica and the public wharves, KFTL, KWL, and port handlers will waive storage charges on containers for the period that the terminals were closed until the 2nd of November 2025. In terms of our cruise ports, yesterday we did do assessments. The Port Authority was out, and there is some good news there. In Ocho Rios, the cruise pier can accommodate vessels beginning tomorrow, the 31st of October 2025. And in terms of Falmouth, there's more work to be done. The town was badly affected, but in terms of the cruise pier, there was some damage, but not extensive damage. So we should soon be able to bring that up, and we'll give you more updates on the Montego Bay Cruise Terminal. The Port Royal can accept vessels from tomorrow also, October 31. And in terms of Port Antonio, it too can accept vessels from the 31st of October. I have some other updates, but I'm going to go straight to the ministers. I'm going to begin with I'm going to start with Minister Daryl Vaz, who will come and give you an update on the utilities and also his work with the telecoms providers. Minister Vaz.
Thank you very much. Good morning to everyone, especially our friends from Cayman, Premier Leader, Opposition Ministers. Thank you very much for coming. It means a lot. So let's start with JPS. As of 8 a.m. this morning, the country is currently operating on a slim generation reserve margin due to the unavailability of generation units and required high voltage transmission lines to meet growing demand from restoration. Firm generation available, 190.5 megawatts. Forecasted peak, 180.5 megawatts. No renewable output available from solar and wind plants. The floating storage reclassification unit that supplies LNG is expected to dock on Friday, October 31st. This will restore natural gas supply to plants that burn gas as a primary fuel. Transmission, over 70% of transmission lines remain out of service due to the severe damage. Reconnaissance flights with the JDF will continue today to assess further damage. Distribution, over 52,000 customers were restored over the last 24 hours. Approximately 490,380 customers, 72% of the customer base is still without power. 70% of the distribution network is de-energized, with only sections of Kingston and St. Andrew, St. Catherine, and St. Thomas, the main areas, being served. let me just note that I got a report a while ago that the entire St. Thomas is suffering from low voltage. So I asked JPS to look into that immediately. The highlights, if you can call it that. 8 major hospitals have been restored, including all major hospitals in Kingston, St. Andrews, St. Catherine, Spanish Town, now has power. We're working to restore 13 other major health clinics across the island. Power has been restored to the Norman Manley International Airport. And I'll just give you, for clarity, Clarendon, totally out, 51,000 customers. Hanover, same, 16,466. KSA North, 96,000 customers, 25,000 without light. South, 60,091, only 3,946 have light. Portland, 23,000 customers, 19,000 without light. Portmore, 52,000, 31,000 without light. St. Anne, 46,000, all up without light. St. Catherine, 86,000, 50,000 without light. St. Elizabeth, 45,000, all out. St. James, 62,000, 61,000 without. St. Mary, 30,000, 29,000 without light. St. Thomas, 20,000, 4,657 without light. Trelawney, fully out at 20,712. Westmoreland, 34,000, all without light. So total customers out as of October 29th is 542,000, and customers restored over the last 24 hours, 52,000, leaving 490,000 without power. So we understand the frustration, we understand the anxiety, but we ask for your patience. The Universal Service Fund in the Western region has 7 public Wi-Fi hubs and 112 community Wi-Fi hotspots. All are down due to hurricane damage, power loss, and ISP service disruption. In the interim, deployment of Starlink satellite-based internet systems to provide immediate broadband coverage in key communities while terrestrial infrastructure is restored. Installation of solar-powered hubs that can support Wi-Fi access and device charging for residents, enhancing community resilience and access to communication channels during restoration period. We all know how important communication is in a time like this. There are people who still have not been able to make contact with their families, their loved ones, their friends, and road access is still impossible. So you can imagine the deep, deep sense of worry that is widespread across Jamaica. Some good news. All 3 international airports are now open for relief supplies. We are expecting 9 flights. Cayman was the first this morning. Thank you again. And we expect 9 relief flights into Norman Manley. We expect 2 into Ian Fleming through American Airlines. And we also expect 2 into Montego Bay this afternoon with the operators of the airport, GAP, sending from Mexico 2 cargo jets with supplies and also, obviously, technical support for the airport. Better news, if we can call it that. Norman Manley International resumed operations this morning for commercial passenger, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 flights in and out of Jamaica today. We have Cayman Airways, Aerojet, American, 2 flights, Caribbean, Copa, Air Canada, JetBlue, Cayman. So Cayman would have 3 actually, and Copa would have 2. That's arrivals. And of course, those same flights will depart. So Norman Manley is back up for all intents and purposes and will continue. I'm expecting that Ian Fleming will also accommodate flights today, both relief and passenger flights. And as we know, the Montego Bay Airport is receiving relief, and I'm expecting to announce in a matter of hours the commercial operations limited to restart tomorrow. As I said before, in terms of the Montego Bay Airport, you have two terminals. Terminals with gates 1 to 7 had some roof damage and flood damage, so we will take those out of service and use 8 to 19, which should be more than sufficient based on the fact that we don't expect a large influx of flights outside of relief and obviously limited flights to come into Jamaica. So, just seeing what else I can give you. The regular aerodromes have some damage, but will be reopened. Telecommunications, very important. As of the 29th, Flow's telecommunication infrastructure is demonstrating resilience and readiness. Mobile emergency service, over 67,000 unique subscribers have utilized Starlink. SMS emergency service is available in the last 2 days. 30% of sites are operational island-wide. Urban areas showing better performance. Kingston 65%, St. Thomas 75%, St. Andrew 63%. And top mobile sites, 274 are up, 520 are down, which means 35% are up. The JUTC rolled out 175 buses this morning in the Kingston metropolitan area, Spanish Town and Portmore. Those buses are going to stay on the routes, the rural routes, West Rural and East Rural. The road conditions and damage are bad, so we're unable to get into those areas. And the Rural Express, JUTC Rural Express, will discontinue the Negril service until obviously access is accessible. I think it's important, Minister Dixon, that going forward on a daily basis we indicate to Jamaica which roads are open so people don't go trying to get to their loved ones and have to turn back. So I know work is being done, but it's important that we give that information on a regular basis so persons don't head out without being able to reach to their final destination with food and their loved one. As you said, the harbour master has given the go-ahead to reopen, and of course we're just waiting on the wharfs to do their checks to make sure that all is okay with that. There was a update from Digicel. I'll have to provide that at a later stage. So I'll save the rest for questions, and I'll try and get some more information between now and then. If there's any essential service under my ministry that I've forgotten, please just ask the question and I'll get the information. JUTC and Montego Bay Metro, both are serving as best as possible. Obviously, Montego Bay St. James got a bad hit as well, so it will be limited service. But for JUTC, and we will be providing JUTC for relief efforts to go for families who want to get down there to help their loved ones. JUTC will be crafting something to assist in getting more people in one bus than having 5 or 6 cars trying to do the same thing. In closing, let me just say that I ask everybody, every single citizen of Jamaica to make time, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, an hour, to just dedicate some prayers for those.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Minister Vaz. You've heard the situation with telecoms, and know that we know there are many people who are trying to reach their loved ones by phone and are not getting through. And so it's a priority for us to get some more avenues for telecommunication between family members. And I tell you, I remember Hurricane Ivan, My mother was in Cayman. My grandfather was in Cayman. I didn't hear from them for days. I was a wreck. So I know there are so many people in Jamaica, all over the world, that I know your heart is breaking because you've not heard from your families. And so please know that the government is doing everything we can to get to them. And that's why our soldiers, and they were working with regular civilians, just came out and said, we want to help. And they're going by foot, trying to clear the roadways. And so we are going to get to them. We're going to get to every community. It may take a little time, but we're going to do it as quickly as we can and get aid and food to all those who need it. All right, I'm going to give you a quick update on education. I mean, a lot of people have asked about schools. In the areas that were not badly affected, we're in Kingston, and when you drive around Kingston, you see some fallen trees, but it's not bad at all. That's not the case in other parts. So where we know that schools can resume, we will be doing so on Monday. But a lot of our schools do not have electricity and they do not have water, even in places that weren't as badly affected. And so we're doing the assessments and we are looking at an emergency plan. I've asked Senator Marlon Morgan to work primarily on this emergency plan because we're going to have a plan for children in Westmoreland, in Hanover, in St. Elizabeth, and in St. James. And so we are working through that and at the appropriate time. Right now, it's about getting food to individuals. It's about getting those who may be injured assistance. It is not the time really for those concerns, but we are starting to think about it and we will give you updates at the appropriate time. I know we have some other ministers who should be reporting. They are out in the field. They're on their way here. We have Minister Samuda, who is going to come and speak about the water situation and also some updates on some discussions with the private sector around mobilizing food that is already in Jamaica, and he's on his way here. We also have coming to join us, we should be having Minister Morgan, who will give you a further update on roads. And we have, oh, you're here. Okay, so you can go next. I didn't see you walk in the room, so. Okay. All right, so we are going to go into the update on roads. And then we have Minister Samuja just walked in from his meeting with the private sector. Thank you for being here, ministers. So we're going to go in that order. Minister Morgan, you will come now. And then we'll have Minister Samuda give his update. And then after that, we are going to have Minister Wheatley, who will be talking through some concerns we're having online with a lot of scamming happening. And so we do have to address it here this morning. And then we'll close with Minister McKenzie's update from the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management. But before that one, we also have been getting a lot of questions about the cat bond. This administration did quite a great job, Minister Williams, in trying to build in some resilience into our economy. And we are going to have to get an update from you. I don't know if you want to come now. Would you like to come now on the cat bond? Yes, I know. The Cayman team is going to have to leave, and so you may see some activity. They do have to get back to the airport to leave. All right, so I'm going to have Minister Morgan, and then we can continue with the rest of the press conference. Minister Morgan?
Hello, good morning, everyone, colleague ministers. All right, no, I'm not Minister Morgan. But let me say good morning to colleague ministers, permanent secretaries, ladies and gentlemen, members of the media, and to say how very delighted I am this morning to be here with the Premier from the Cayman Islands, the Honorable Andre Banks, and his delegation. I met them at the airport this morning. I welcomed them, having heard and seen the footage about Hurricane Melissa in Jamaica. They jumped on a plane and are here this morning. So I'm going to give a minute to the Premier just to introduce your team or just to hand over. Okay.
Good morning, Jamaica, and good morning to our folks in Cayman. I know that your country needs vital ministerial updates, so I'm going to make this very brief. From our standpoint, the Cayman Islands has a deep heritage and history with Jamaica. As Mr. Vaz has mentioned, and as you also have mentioned, we have had our own experience with Hurricane Ivan, and Jamaica was there for Cayman. So we pushed aside our usual state business and got on the first flight that we could to pledge our support. We have brought over an initial round of about US $200,000 of key essential supplies. We also have pledged, and I've written a letter signed by myself to your Prime Minister of about US $1.2 million of goods that we will have, essential supplies and resources that we will have shipped directly to Jamaica. So just know, on behalf of myself and the government, ministers who are here, Minister J.E. Banks, Minister Nick DaCosta, and the Leader of the Opposition, Cayman stands with Jamaica. Thank you. We'll have a host of other colleagues and friends that will come in the coming days and weeks, but God bless you all. God is in control.
Thank you. That was not expected, but thank you. Just to note, if we're leaving, can we go on this side, please, so we're not blocking the cameras that are right ahead? Thank you. Bye. So thank you very much, Cayman. And I should note at this point, since we have acknowledged Cayman, there are many governments around the world that are offering support to us. We've gotten support from the US government, we've gotten support from the EU, from the UK. All of our Caribbean brothers and sisters have pledged support. I know Trinidad, last night we were on the phone with them and they have a shipment coming to Jamaica. Many other entities around the world have pledged their support, and we are so grateful to all of them for that support. Okay, and now we'll go to Minister Morgan. Minister Morgan, it is your time. Jamaica wants to know about what's going on the roads.
Thank you very much, Dr. Morris Dixon. Thanks to everyone who is tuning in. Just want to give a report on the current situation regarding our roads and major infrastructure. We began experiencing the effects of Melissa on October 24. For the first few days, as the hurricane moved along the south coast of the island, it resulted in flash flooding, landslides, and block drains in several parishes, especially in eastern and in central parishes. On October 27, the hurricane made landfall along the western coast of Jamaica, resulting in a significant damage to roads and other infrastructure, particularly on the western parts of the island, Westmoreland and South St. Elizabeth, South Manchester, and in some places in Clarendon. It also had serious impacts in Trelawney, Hanover, St. James, and St. Anne. Based on the reports received up to early this morning, more than 151 roads have been reported affected island-wide. Of this amount, 134 are still blocked. We have fully cleared 11 roads, and we have partially cleared to single lane 41 roads, and we continue to work on 82. So let me repeat that. 151 roads are affected. 134 were blocked or are still blocked to some extent. And we have cleared 11 fully, and 41 are single lane, while we're still working on 82. Now, based on our mandate at the National Works Agency, our central role is the immediate activation of our various parish offices to mobilize equipment and personnel to clear blocked roads and restore access to communities. Primary consideration has to be given, based on our mandate, to corridors which include health facilities such as hospitals and clinics and health centers, airports and seaports. And I'll speak about airports. One of the first things that we did on the night that the hurricane left was to send a team along with the JDF. The team included the CEO of the National Works Agency at 11:30 in the night to examine the Palisados road so that we could demonstrate that the road was safe for the opening of the airport. So that's one of the things that we did immediately in the aftermath of the hurricane. So we have to give access to shelters. We have to work with the Jamaica Public Service Company to give access to power lines and so on. But we also have to wait on the Jamaica Public Service Company to tell us that this line is no longer live and we can clear it. Across the island, a large percentage of the Jamaica Public Service facilities are lying on the road. The contractors cannot touch those power lines without the Jamaica Public Service Company saying to us, it is safe for us to do so. So we have a very close relationship with the Jamaica Public Service Company. So many persons would be calling and saying, the NWA tractor is sitting there waiting. It is waiting because for safety purposes, we can't touch the line unless we get a clearance. Even though it may look like there is no power, our contractors cannot be sure. We have to provide access to cell towers to ensure that Jamaicans have access to telephony. We have to provide access to major road corridors. For example, this morning, we are working on the North Coast Highway, where there are several areas, particularly near Pear Tree Bottom, where there is silting on the road. There's also a boat, a large boat, that is across the road on the North-South Highway that we're working to clear. We have to examine major infrastructure, such as bridges. We have to look at the Sandy Gully Bridge to make sure that it is ready to take heavy traffic again. We have to look at the Maypen Bridge, the Yallas Bridge, all of these things. And not only do we have to look at the bridges, but we also have to work in collaboration with NWC, because a lot of the bridges also carry important utilities such as water line on them. So it's a collaborative approach with the government. We have secured partnership with our partners, including construction contractors, major contractors such as China Harbour Engineering, and other grade 1 contractors such as S&G and others. I won't name all of them, who have capital works taking place. For example, S&G is working in Portmore to help clear the roads in Portmore. China Harbour is working in St. James to help to clear those roads in St. James. And all across the island, we have engaged not only contractors at the grade 1 level, but also lower level contractors and also equipment owners island-wide. And they're working specifically in South St. Elizabeth. We have a lot of equipment in South St. Elizabeth. Right now, as we speak, we have equipment in Black River trying to clear the debris. But let's give an example of what is happening in South St. Elizabeth. There's 4 foot of sand on the road adjacent to the sea that is not going to be cleared in 24 hours. 4 feet of sand stretching for over a mile is going to require significant haulage, significant heavy equipment. So 24, 30 odd hours after the hurricane, our contractors are active, we are active on the ground. But the reality that we face is that we require time. Holland bamboo is another situation. Not only is Holland bamboo the bamboo in the road, but it is also flooded. So the time it would take to clear, if it was only the bamboo in the road, would be easier. Moneague is the same thing. The bridge at Moneague, we want to clear it, but it is also flooded. It's going to take some time for the water to recede so that the heavy equipment can go in. Not only do we have to contemplate that, but there are also areas where the hillsides have become unstable. So you might send an operator in, for example, Bagwat Gorge. An engineer has to come and look at the hillside to ensure that rock falls are not continuing. So imagine sending an operator into the gorge and a rock falls on the machine and he loses his life. It would be irresponsible of the entity to allow that to happen. So there's a lot that goes in. It's not just sending personnel into an area to clear a road. There are other things that factor in to the clearing. So we are in collaboration with JPS, NWC, Office of the Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management, and we continue to work. Our first priority is to give single-lane access, at least single-lane access to where roads are blocked, which includes removing fallen trees, clearing landslides, relieving flooded areas by creating additional drainage. Our 14 parish technical teams, along with support from other departments, are assessing the effects of the damage and assigning appropriate equipment to clear affected areas. And we've also deployed technical teams to look at our bridges and critical infrastructure where river training may be necessary. We're also engaged with our coastal experts. For example, we're engaging with Smith Warner to look at our revetments across the island to ensure that they are stable. We're also looking at our gully network island-wide to ensure that even though the rains have stopped, are there gully walls that have now become unstable that may pose a risk to life for people who live close to gullies. We also have to be looking at our traffic signal network island-wide. A large portion of our traffic signal network is down, so we have to be doing assessments of that as well. Several communities, especially in western parishes, which were impacted by the hurricane, have seen a significant number of their drains destroyed. We continue to conduct assessments and create access where inaccessible areas exist so that our technical teams can look at the damage that exists there and solutions can be made. The works to achieve the access are being undertaken by private contractors who are part of the agency's framework. At the beginning of the hurricane season, we would have put out a call to every single contractor who has a public procurement certificate to ask them, if there is a disaster, do you wish to participate in recovery? Our first call is to the contractors who responded of their willingness to put down their equipment to absorb some of the cost of clearing and holding strain until we are able to stabilize and pay them. 24 hours to 30 odd hours after the event, we are still clearing roads and restoring access island-wide, and hence we are not able to provide a full cost as yet as to what the impact has been. Our targeted approach is multi-pronged. Reopening of blocked roads first to at least single lane, restore drivability of main thoroughfares which have been scoured, assessment of critical infrastructure for safety, bridges, gullies, rock revetments, and river training, assessment of traffic signal network, collaboration with our partners, JPS, NWC, our telephone companies, OPM, and our municipalities, and also giving regular updates to the nation as to where we are in clearing and assessing. Thank you very much, Minister Dr. Dana Morris Dixon.
Thank you. I know your teams are out there. I've seen them, and I know they're definitely working in the most damaged areas also. We're going to now have the update on the water situation, and we have our Minister of Water, Environment and Climate Change who will now give his update on that, on other things too.
Thank you, Minister Dixon, colleague ministers, heads of agencies, PSs, members of the media, members of the public who are watching and listening. Just over 30 hours post the all clear being given, NWC has the following updates as it relates to their supplies. The Mona and Hermitage systems are currently operating via generator, so you would note that you're getting sporadic supply as opposed to no supply in those areas. The Tullow Springs, which is the third major system that supplies southern St. Andrew and certain sections of Kingston, is operating with full JPS supply, but is impacted by some turbidity. That seems to be settling now, so we are able to increase the volume of water coming from that system. We are also pulling some supply from wells in St. Catherine with the use of generator and connecting from private sources into our systems. So Kingston and St. Andrew, it would be fair to say that outside of the hilly interior, being East Rural St. Andrew and West Rural St. Andrew, are at minimum getting sporadic supply. The hilly interior is obviously impacted by pumps which need energy, and that is being worked through with JPS. We expect to be able to return most of Red Hills and Stony Hill sections that are supplied by pumps with supply by this evening. So Kingston and St. Andrew generally is doing okay. St. Thomas had some electrical problems from damage during the storm. Those are being resolved now, and it's expected that St. Thomas's pumping systems will be up before the end of the day. The larger issue that we face, as you can imagine, is in Western Jamaica. I'll start first with the Northwest. Something that we hadn't contemplated or certainly had hoped wouldn't happen has indeed occurred. The Great River water system is on the boundary of St. James and Hanover. Its intake pipes were dislodged and washed away in the storm. The Great River water system serves just under about 35 to 40% of St. James and most of Hanover up to about Logwood. So you understand the disruption that this will indeed cause. Contractors have already been mobilized. The pipes are already on site. We expect work to commence within another hour as the assessments are now complete. We have been working with NWA. There will be a temporary intake installed which will cause some traffic disruption, and the longer term work will take about 6 weeks. But we expect to complete the temporary reconnection by Sunday evening. That will allow us to pump pretty much for 70% of Hanover and 35 to 40% of St. James. I think that's important for residents there to note. We do have a generator on site at this water treatment plant, so as soon as we're able to pull water into that facility, that will help. The Martha Brae system, which tends to be the next largest system supporting approximately 50% of northern Trelawney and about 50% of St. James, especially the Montego Bay metropolitan area, is being impacted by turbidity of the Martha Brae River. With where that is now, we expect that to significantly reduce over the next 36 hours. We do have generator on site. We will be able to pump water into homes immediately after turbidity subsides within that 36-hour period. Now, important to note, and this is something that happens all the time in St. James. St. James pulling from one source is perhaps an unfortunate way that we designed this water system some 40, 50 years ago. It takes a while to backfill the lines. So every time there's a break on the line in anywhere near Iberia Star or any of Coral Gardens where there tends to be line breaks, which is why we're replacing that line, it takes approximately 1 week to backfill those lines. We pump from the Martha Brae to the terminal reservoir in the center of Montego Bay, and to backfill the lines right throughout the hilly interior of St. James, 1 week. We expect to start pumping within 36 hours. But I want there to be understanding that certainly immediately post that 36 hours, firstly, northern Trelawney will see water in their pipes, and then eastern St. James, not the political boundary, but the geographic region, will start to see the impact, and you'll move steadily into the center of Montego Bay to the terminal and the bogue systems there. Just want people to be aware that those are the constraints in that area. As it relates to Logwood, which is the major supply for Negril and sections up to about Landilo, it was damaged during the storm in terms of the electrical supply. We have repaired that and we have commenced pumping. So within the next 12 hours, persons from Logwood to Negril to about Landilo should be seeing water as we backfill those lines. We're working to do the assessments in the rest of Westmoreland. Access and connectivity with our team has indeed caused challenges. A team from Trelawney and Montego Bay is physically going to sites throughout the course of the day. We'll be better able to update as it relates Westmoreland, I would imagine by close of business. Port Portland, well, let me stick to the west first. St. Elizabeth, as you know, is in many ways ground zero. St. Elizabeth, and I'd say eastern Westmoreland, is ground level for the disaster. We are currently doing the assessments. There are 17 systems that we had evaluated between eastern St. Elizabeth and central Westmoreland that we have made arrangements for generators. We are working with the JDF to establish the routes to install these over the next 36 to 48 hours. You will recall that we had stated that it was 72 hours post all clear that we would be able to deploy these generators. At that 72-hour mark, it will take, for some of those systems, 12 to 18 hours to backfill the lines. So we're working through those issues. Clarendon is currently impacted heavily by energy issues, certain at our pumps. The JPS has advised that the major ones that service central Clarendon, not political boundary, but geographic boundaries, will be energized by this evening. That will give us significant reprieve. However, the major issue that we faced was in the Mineral Heights and the Woodside facilities. Those were significantly damaged by storm winds. We'll have a better feel as to how long those will take for restoration by the close of business. Engineering teams are indeed already there. The St. Catherine treatment plant is already back in operation. We expect backfilling of lines from Spanish Town, certainly into Old Harbour, to be complete before the end of the day, and persons in St. Catherine should largely have water supply by close of business. That's for the plains. As we know, as you have many pumps that function as lift stations into the hilly interior, into places like Riversdale, that will take some time as we restore those systems. We're doing the assessments now. Portland and indeed St. Thomas, though not in the brunt of the storm, would be impacted by turbidity issues and some power issues. We expect to deploy generators, 8 generators, which will function to restore approximately 50% of Portland and approximately 60% of St. Thomas before the end of the day. So we're working through those systems. Turbidity, we expect to largely subside over the next 36 to 48 hours. That will clear one hurdle. We're working very closely with our partners in JPS to restore power, firstly, to the systems that supply hospitals, infirmaries, places of safety, places of detention, and of course, airports, Minister Vaz. The other priority, which we had not stated, but we expect to be complete with our deployment of generators by tomorrow morning, is our loading bays for trucks. Those are being dealt with now. We have commenced loading bay operations at Logwood in Hanover to deal with most of Hanover and western Westmoreland. We have commenced loading bay operations in Trelawney that will start to deal with eastern St. James. We are working to get power source to a small well that we do have in western St. James to commence trucking by this evening in the western half of St. James. Our trucking will be very inefficient because we may have to go to sources that are further away than the usual source as we get many sources up. But they will be operating, as of this evening, 24 hours a day to ensure we're able to backfill public institutions at night where we can get access and go into communities in the day. We are pushing very hard to deploy our generators and to work with JPS to hit our 70% target by the 72-hour mark of restoration for customers. Now, we are clear that many of our rural communities exist outside of the utility footprint and can be marooned or can be cut off from some of the small community tanks that they use. We have done an inventory of all the trucks that exist in the NWC license system, and we have mobilized those truckers to the stations that they can load, and we expect to be going into deep rural as well as into urban centers. We'll provide a further update, Minister Dixon, by way of some mechanism that me and you will agree this evening, perhaps around 6 o'clock, as we expect to have more progress at that time. Thank you.
Yes, he's going to update on the private sector meeting that I had said earlier.
So the Prime Minister, as a subset of the disaster risk mechanism, had asked me to engage with the private sector as it relates to food and medication. I would have had a meeting with the PSOJ, with representatives of the PSOJ, the JMEA, the JCC, the Shipping Association, and Port Authority this morning. We have looked at their current capacity on the ground. They're doing their internal assessments in terms of what they'll be able to contribute. They've formally engaged many of their suppliers for them internationally to also make donations, since they've benefited so well over decades in Jamaica. And we have formed a joint working group that will look at the distribution mechanism for over 200,000 packages over the next 10 to 21 days. That is the assessment of what we will need urgently to many of our affected communities. Now, this distribution mechanism will not be a one-size-fits-all. One of the things that we're doing throughout the course of the day and working with the JDF to do is we're assessing stores that exist in the areas worst affected that are standing and are able to operate and have stock and can be restocked because the roads are close to those areas. So in those areas where stores exist and have stock and are able to function, we'll be initiating a voucher system as soon as is possible, because we don't need to mobilize physical goods to go there. Where stores are not in a position to operate, we will be dealing with packages, certainly with dry goods and non-perishables, so that they're able to make their own meals in that regard. We will also be supporting with several of their members in the food and beverage industry, through the JDF, through the OPM, through the Ministry of Labour, with cooked meals where they're able to support. So for instance, I know today across 3 of our major patty suppliers, some 35,000 patties are being baked to be sent to the West in Jamaica. And that's one initiative of many. But we'll be reconvening mid-afternoon, and we'll give a formal update in terms of how we plan to distribute significant food packages over the next 7 to 10 days to the worst affected areas this evening. Thank you, Minister.
Thank you very much, Minister. As you see, we're all jumping in where we can and supporting the effort as best as we can. One of the main questions we've had from the media, particularly, has been about the cat bond. And so, Minister Williams, we are going to ask you to give an update on that. Just noting we do have a cabinet meeting, so we will have to break soon because all of us are needed in cabinet. And so Minister Williams will go, and then Minister McKenzie will give his and then Minister Williams first, and then Minister Wheatley, and then Minister McKenzie will close.
Good morning again, everyone. All right, I know that we can agree that we can't prevent the storms and hurricanes that come at us. But one thing this government can be credited with is putting together a robust national natural disaster risk financing policy and taking the steps to ensure that we put the financing in place, the financing framework, and maintain it over the years and made it more robust, so that this morning we can stand here to remind you that that framework consists of several layers. The first layer that we can immediately call on is the contingencies fund with $5.3 billion. Then we have the National Natural Disaster Reserve Fund with $1 billion. There are some conditions that apply, and we'll work through those. Layered on top of that are our different insurance policies, and we do have 2 insurance policies with the Caribbean Catastrophe Insurance Facility, otherwise called CRIF, C-C-R-I-F, and the coverage there for tropical cyclone is US $91.6 million, and for excess rainfall, the coverage is US $37.3 million, of course. Those are also parametric insurance, meaning preset conditions, and those will be calibrated, and we will get information as to whether or not there would be a payout from that insurance. On top of that, we do have the catastrophe bond, otherwise called CAT bond, for a potential payout of $150 million US if that bond is triggered. I know that there have been many articles written, many questions asked. It was only this morning that I got word from our financial secretary, but I wish to take that word to Cabinet for discussion before we talk about it publicly in the press. Additionally, we do have loans, contingent loans from our international partners. And so from the IDB, we also have a contingent credit facility of US $285 million. So you can see if the layers are exhausted, you can see how we can continue to the next layer. And so I just want to remind you that we do have these facilities in place. We don't have all the information just yet as to precisely what the payout will be from each of them. But as we get that information after updating the Prime Minister and the Cabinet, we will make that available to you. And you saw this morning as well the Premier from Cayman, $1 million Caymanian dollars. You heard the list from Minister Dana Dixon about just all the contributions that have come in to date. And so I know as the world looks on and they get more information about just the devastation that we faced, that we will continue to see our neighbors, not only in the Caribbean, but across the world, rally to our assistance. So that would be my update, Minister. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Minister Williams. So we now have Minister Wheatley. This is your first time with me. Yes, good. And you have a very sobering update for us. So thank you, Minister, for being here.
Thank you very much, Minister. Good morning, everyone. While Jamaica and the government tries to deal with the aftermath of Hurricane Melissa, we have some unscrupulous players, not necessarily within Jamaica, but worldwide, trying to take disadvantage of the situation. The Jamaica Cyber Incident Response Team, Jamaica CERT, is issuing an urgent alert to the public in Jamaica and worldwide regarding the emergence of fraudulent websites attempting to exploit generosity in the wake of Hurricane Melissa. Jamaica CERT's monitoring systems have detected multiple suspicious domains currently under development that appears designed to divert hurricane relief donations away from legitimate channels. In fact, up to last night, we identified 8 such sites, and just now it has been updated to 28 sites that are attempting to divert contributions, donations from legitimate sources. These malicious actors are creating fake websites with names deliberately similar to Jamaica's official donation portal. We have identified some of these domains as JamaicaHurricaneHelp.net, JamaicaHurricaneHelp.org, Jamaica-Hurricane-Help.com, MelissaReliefJamaica.net, MelissaReliefJamaica.com, MelissaReliefJamaica.org, SupportJamaicaGovJM.com, SupportJamaicaGovJM.net. And you recognize that the last two are very much similar to our official website. The main difference is that all of our websites, our official website ends with .gov.jm.com. What you have identified, ladies and gentlemen, is that these sites are at varying stages of development. But Jamaica CERT suspect that these sites may become active in coming days. The only legitimate government website for Hurricane Melissa relief donations is https://www.supportjamaica.gov.jm. So you'll see that our official website ends with .gov.jm. How should you protect yourselves? Verify the URL carefully. As I stated earlier, the official site ends in .gov.jm and not .com, .net, or .org. We ask that persons who wish to donate to type the address directly. Do not click links in unsolicited emails or social media messages. Look for security indicators. Ensure the site shows https:// and look for a padlock icon. Again, that speaks to the security of the site. We are asking persons to be suspicious of urgent requests. Scammers create artificial urgency to bypass your careful judgment. We ask that you research any organization. If you are donating through a charity, verify its legitimacy through independent sources. What to do if you encounter a suspicious site? Do not enter any personal or financial information. Do not make any payments. Report the site immediately to Jamaica CERT at jamaica.cert@opm.gov.jm. And you must also share this warning with friends and family as well. A message to our international donors. The government of Jamaica recognizes and deeply appreciates the global outpouring of support for Jamaica during this difficult time. We urge all international donors to exercise caution and use only the official government portal. Your generosity should reach those who need it most, not criminal enterprises. Jamaica CERT continues to actively monitor for additional fraudulent domains and is working with international cybersecurity partners and domain registrars to shut down these malicious operations. Again, the public will be notified on a continuous basis of any development in this area. Ladies and gentlemen, Jamaica, Hurricane Melissa has caused significant damage across Jamaica, and the need for legitimate assistance is real and urgent. By staying vigilant against these scams, we can ensure that charitable donations reach the Jamaican people who desperately need support.
Thank you, Minister. You heard it. There are people out there trying to get money via nefarious means, and you have to. That's why we created the .gov.jm extension, because we know that we need to be able to say that something is legitimately the government of Jamaica. There are some other legitimate sites that are out there, some very important organizations. Please do your research before you use any of them. If you're looking for the official government of Jamaica site, it is supportjamaica.gov.jm. And so many people, there have been thousands of people already on that site giving contributions from around the world, and we thank all of them. And we've been joined by Minister Grange, who has said that she is doing some work in terms of mobilizing to support from the entertainment sector, and we know she's very good at that, and we're going to need all of that support going forward. And so you'll be hearing more on the initiatives coming out of the Ministry of Culture and Entertainment and Gender and Sports as they support the effort to get the donations in and to support the communities that are in need. And so our last presenter this morning, and we do have to go to Cabinet, is Minister McKenzie. Minister McKenzie is our Deputy Chair of the National Disaster Risk Council, and he'll give you his official update.
Thank you, Minister, colleagues. permanent secretaries, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. I will be very brief because most of the updates that are probably critical to the concerns of many Jamaicans have been addressed by Minister Vaz, Minister Morgan, and Minister Semuda. And we have had another layer of concerns based on the presentation just made by Minister Wheatley. I just want to quickly give an update on the state of our shelters and to advise that presently we have 521 shelters which are fully in operation. Now, the numbers in the shelters would have reduced substantially over the last day because many persons who went to the shelter out of precaution have left those facilities and have gone back home. So we are down to about 13,000 persons within shelters. I know we can't speak specifically to the 4 parishes that has been devastated because the communications with those parishes is very difficult. I got a call from the mayor of Black River this morning, and we spoke, and we are making arrangements to get food and water into Slipe and another community in St. Elizabeth that he spoke to me about, and those efforts are presently on the way. Just to advise the country of the 6 most severely impacted parishes: Manchester, St. Elizabeth, Trelawney, and over Westmoreland and St. James. Over 170 communities within these parishes have been moderately or severely affected by flooding, land slippage, and other aspects of Hurricane Melissa. Just want to update that the Emergency Secure Response Team, and Minister Dixon would have spoken briefly to it earlier on, comprising 117 members of the Jamaica Defense Force Disaster Assistance Response Team, the DART, has been deployed to assist with search and rescue, and they are en route making clearance and distributing food packages along with the Jamaica Constabulary Force and the Jamaica Fire Brigade in many communities that are accessible. The relief operation continue in collaboration with national and international partners, including World Food Program, UNICEF, SIDEMA, and other such agencies, the Red Cross, the Salvation Army, and thousands of well-thinking Jamaicans. Already, Minister Williams met the Caymanian delegation, and more relief supplies are en route to Jamaica. I just want to close now by saying I spoke yesterday again about the question of the operation of the shelters. And again, social media is making hell out of what the government is doing. There is no truth that as of midday today, all shelters will be closed. That is not true. That is just not true. So the shelters will remain in operation, especially in the parishes that have been severely affected by the passage of the hurricane. We are making arrangements as I speak to get igloos with ice and water and food supplies to these affected areas. Over the next 2 days, a massive relief program between OPM, the Ministry of Labor and our partners will intensify to get relief supplies to the various communities. Later on, I hope we will be able to give a proper update on the number of deaths so far. Again, I've been hearing some stories that I don't want to repeat, and I'm not going to repeat those stories because the police have not confirmed those reports. But what I will say is there has been casualties, and we do anticipate, based on our information, that there'll be more. But I'm asking persons only to respond to the official statement coming out of the OPM or from the Minister of Information, who will receive those information and will provide them to the public. So this is just a brief update. We continue to work. We continue to do all we can to ensure that we reach those who are in need. Thank you, Minister.
Okay, thank you very much, Minister. So you see there's a lot of work happening, and as I said at the top, the Prime Minister plans to, as long as the weather holds up for him, he will be going to see Westmoreland today and Hanover, and he will continue the flyovers of the interior, so some parts of Clarendon too, and Manchester, and Trelawney we'll also be able to look at. The helicopters are already up, JDF is up. We are actually starting to get food out into the affected areas as best as possible. We will continue to do that. I just need to note there are many international development partners and agencies that are working with us. The World Central Kitchen is one that is doing quite a lot of work. They've done over 100 million food packages around the world last year, and they are on their way to Jamaica. They actually have already started. I know they have a partnership with Island Grill, and they were distributing food already. And they came in this morning, Minister Williams is saying, and they're going to do some real good work with us. I know Hart will be working with them, with some of our trainees in the chef area. They did some yesterday, 6,400 meals yesterday, 20,000 today, and 100,000 per day is what they're trying to do. We also have some other partners who are coming in today with helicopters specially designed to deliver food in areas that are cut off. And so we're going to be able to drop food items, even if we cannot get there by road. We're going to drop food items in the affected areas. We are working hard to get food to people and water as is necessary. In terms of other updates that I'll quickly give you before we move on, I just wanted to note that I know there are some persons, in Kingston we've not been affected as much, and we're really very devastated for what is happening. I know there are teams right now of volunteers across the areas on the eastern side of the island that are packing goods at the Salvation Army that will go out to the communities that need it. Yesterday, I told you there's a big team at OPM that's working 24 hours a day. Yesterday, we had some really great Samaritans just show up. Good Samaritans show up. Michelle Smith from Chocolate Dreams, she brought brownies for the team there. Summer Palace delivered special lunch for the team there. Sugar and Spice dropped off cakes for them. I just want to thank Corporate Jamaica that is trying to just support all of the emergency teams that are working. We have a lot more work to do, and we are very grateful for all support that is coming in. I'm going to now move to the questions. I have some questions here. There was one again about bodies. We are hearing reports of dead bodies. We have to confirm them, as I said, the police are going to be working on that. The JDF does have a helicopter that will be going out. We will retrieve whatever bodies there are, but we have to confirm them before we can give you any numbers, and we're actively working to do that right now. I have a question for Minister Morgan. So if you can just join me, Minister Morgan. It is from Emily Shields, and she would like to know about the NWA teams and private contractors. Are they working from St. Elizabeth westward, meaning they won't get to Westmoreland until St. Elizabeth is cleared? Is the NWA team working all over the country?
Thank you very much, Dana, for that question. The National Works Agency has engaged contractors in every single parish. Even before, and I want to explain it, at the beginning of the hurricane season, the NWA invites qualified contractors to tell us, do you want to work if there's a disaster? And many contractors say yes. Since the event of Melissa, we again reached out to not only qualified contractors, but anyone who has equipment who is willing to assist us. And we have said to the parish teams, if the person has a backhoe, a front-end loader, an excavator, and there's a need for it, use them. We can deal with the administrative side of it after. So there is absolutely no restriction nationally about the engagement of reputable persons who have equipment and expertise to assist in the recovery. Westmoreland, Hanover, St. James, St. Elizabeth, Trelawney, all parishes across the island. And I want to say to the people in Westmoreland, it goes for you as it goes for Hanover, as it goes for Trelawney, as it goes for Clarendon.
Thank you. Everybody.
Thank
we
you
are
very much.
everywhere. NWA is everywhere. There is no area that is being focused on. They are everywhere. Right. I think we have one here. Thank you, Minister. But you could stay because I think they may ask you more questions. Mahiri? Can't hear you. Right.
Before we head to nationwide, Minister Dixon, I know a lot of persons have been reaching out. They want to become volunteers. They want to become volunteers. And there's this popular site that I would want someone from OPM to confirm. It's opm.itechinnovations.com. We just want to know if this is a legitimate site where persons can register to become volunteers, please.
All right, they're asking
That's
that you
not
go to
the-
OPM. There's something that sounds weird, but we'll
Desmond.
find out. Minister McKenzie?
We welcome volunteers. The OPM already have they have about over 2,500 volunteers. But that website that you just named is not something that we are familiar with, so I would refer people to go directly to the OPM website, okay? To the OPM website, please.
All right, thank you,
All right, I'm
Minister.
just noting, I know there was a call yesterday for volunteers to help with the Salvation Army, for example, and many persons went there this morning. I've been seeing pictures of people packing food there to support. And so we're going to be, there are avenues for volunteering. Obviously, right now, we're focusing on clearing the roads, on getting supplies to those who need it. And there are opportunities to volunteers, but go on OPM. There are a lot of sites, as Minister Wheatley has said, that are masquerading as official sites, so please be careful.
Morning, everybody. Mahiri Stewart, Nationwide News here. Question to Minister McKenzie. We did hear of one incident of one of the disaster response workers being injured before the hurricane had made landfall, but following the passage, we know of the citizens that are marooned, but in terms of the workers that are already in the areas working, is there anything you can say in terms of whether or not they're okay?
The workers, the question was about our emergency response workers. Are they all okay? Has anyone been injured?
Well, thank God they are okay, and they have been working 24 hours around the clock, especially in the areas that have been affected more than other areas. And I must commend the JDF, the Jamaica Fire Brigade, and the Jamaica Constabulary Force and our workers on the ground. They have been true to the cause, and they are doing a wonderful job. And thank God so far none of them have sustained any injuries.
And question to Minister Morris Dixon. We've received reports at Nationwide News of some institutions that have dorms that are closing the dorms despite the fact that they may have students in them that are from the areas that have been worst hit by the hurricane. In terms of your advice to these schools that are housing these students, what would you advise them to do?
What I would say is that we are Jamaican people and we take care of each other. We cannot send home a student to a place where they do not have shelter. We cannot do that. We have to think about each of these students, think about what they are going through. Many of them have not heard anything from their families. And so we have to do the responsible thing, and I ask all of the leaders across the system that they do the right thing, and I know they know what the right thing is. Ask yourself, what would Jesus do? And do that.
And last question, I guess it would be to Minister Vaz. We know that the JUTC, for the most part, is up and running in this area. I know the rural school buses were used in terms of transporting persons to shelters. But given that schools aren't open right now, in terms of the usage of those rural school buses, will they still be used during this process to get aid to different areas?
At this point, whatever, at this point, whatever is needed will be done. If that becomes a necessity, we will action it.
All right. Thank you. I think those are all of the questions. As I said, we do have a cabinet meeting that we need to get to. But again, saying to Jamaica that the government is working really hard. All our emergency teams are out there. The JDF is out there. And what's so amazing is that so many Jamaicans have been going out to help the JDF team. We are trying to get to the areas that have been marooned. We will get there. We also have equipment in that we are clearing right as we speak that can drop the food items and other supplies into communities that are marooned. We are going to get to every single Jamaican and give them support. So as we close, we thank you. We will be giving another update tomorrow. Stay tuned for that time, and we will run off to cabinet. But as always, let's continue to pray for those who are hurting, who are really, really deeply in distress today across Western Jamaica. Let's keep them in prayer and let's pray for the entire country of Jamaica. Thank you.